Good evening everyone, it's your man of the hour, the Tower of Power, the living legend of professional wrestling punditry. Hello, my name is Lee Hazel and this is the Steelchair Shot, where we stare into the abyss between what fans want from a wrestling product and everything WWE actually puts out this week. It's the Raw lot that drew the dubious honour of getting the chance to compete in this year's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and I'm here to tell you how each of them did. And for anyone worrying that SmackDown superstars don't have the opportunity to shorten their careers, don't worry, they've got tables, ladders and chairs coming after Survivor Series. But first, let's address the state of the Hell in a Cell stipulation as it stands in 2016, and the standing is not good. The last Hell in a Cell match presented the baffling decision to put Shane McMahon in the cage with The Undertaker, in a match that had a story with no rational sense and no logical consequences. Shane lost, yet he's still in power. To boot, that might well have been Undertaker's last match, and it was an overlong shit show. The annual timing of the Hell in a Cell show also contributes to the dilution of the match. Once Hell in a Cell was a big deal and a hugely anticipated event, crowds would erupt at hearing the words. Now, the show means that there are at least 2 Cell matches a year on the same night, and the biggest problem is that they do it out of obligation rather than as a natural conclusion to a feud. Hell in a Cell happens in October, therefore any feuds on in October get sorted out in the Cell. These days they don't even bother to fit the storylines to the gravitas that the Cell demands. Neither the Rusev-Reigns nor the Rollins-Owens rivalries feel like they've reached the levels of animosity required for the Cell to be necessary. Even Sasha Charlotte barely just makes it. The only thing keeping the reputation of the Cell alive these days are the harrowing promos of Mick Foley, as he shares his traumatizing memories with increasingly confused looking superstars who've wondered just what the hell they've gotten themselves into. Will any of the 3 Cell matches on the card repair the Cell's damaged mystique? By the way, I'm still surprised that they create PPVs around stipulations. I mean, wasn't it TNA that brought that concept back with Lockdown? It's not like WWE to play second fiddle to TNA now, is it? Well, the show opens with a Cell match, so we'll find out soon, but first, we have to tackle the dark match. This was 6-man tag team action from the Cruiserweight division as Cedric Alexander, Lince Dorado and Sin Cara take on Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, and Arya Daivari. Did I pronounce that right? I hope I did. Pretty fun match, but nothing more basic than, these are the good guys, please cheer them, and these are the bad guys, please boo. The Cruiserweight division at the moment is a 2-man show, and it appears that WWE doesn't have the confidence in the brand to expand the airtime out to more people. This should change soon though, after the pop Cedric Alexander got when he tagged in. The crowd jumped to life and suddenly the match hit full speed ahead. Cedric gets the win and I'm expecting him to be the next Cruiserweight face to break away from the crowd. The show opens proper with the United States title fight and the first Hell in a Cell match of the evening, Rusev vs Reigns. Rusev, a communist lackey, is still getting more favourable crowd reactions at a pay-per-view than Golden Boy Roman Reigns. And Reigns is still front and centre of WrestleMania's promotional material. Is Vince trying to put off the hardcore fans from buying WrestleMania package deals? If so, Vince, if they haven't been put off by the last half a decade, then they ain't getting put off at all. And this match won't have helped with that respect either. This was Rusev's match. Damn near a star-making turn. He looks like a beast. Any way Roman looked good whatsoever was by the hand of the writers or through Rusev's good graces. Rusev took kendo stick shots to the thorax for Christ's sakes. He carried Roman like a field medic to the victory. Bayley vs Dana Brooke next, and I've had to replay this on the network just to think of anything interesting to say. And actually it was quite good. It was given no time, so I guess some things never change. But Dana Brooke was surprisingly really good in this match. Which is why it's a shame that their segment on the last Raw was so horrible and sabotaged all the interest in their feud. This match kind of just happened, but it was by no means unpleasant to see. Next, Enzo rips the club a new one with a Toy Story analogy. No one could make that work except for Enzo Amore. The dude has the Midas touch when it comes to promo work, but he still needs a pop filter on his mic. I should know, I'm using one for the first time in my videos. How do I sound? So, Gallows and Anderson have now taken a verbal beating from Enzo and Cass, so they have to dish out a physical one. And they kind of do, but they get the win sort of ironically, as it's the same kind of victory that the New Day got over them. They take all of the offense at first and then hit a couple of moves and get the pin. It's not really a comeback that feels like they've earned a victory, but hopefully people will just forget the manner in which they won today and just remember that they actually, did win. A little note on Enzo and Cass. I know the dynamic of the face in peril and the bigger guy coming in to make the save is a time-honoured tradition and it just works as a storytelling device, but I think they lay it on a bit thick when it comes to Enzo and Cass. It's clear they want to make Cass a star, but I'm worried that he's going to be Roman Reigns Mark II. He's popular right now, but that's mostly off the back of Enzo, letting him get in on the promos. And once Big Cass goes on his own, you'll see how much that borrowed charisma matters. In a tag environment, when he's sharing a quarter of the time with 3 other guys, he looks good. When he has to carry himself by himself, his limited moveset I think is going to turn people against him, just like it did with Reigns. The The cell comes down again, and this time it's for Rollins vs Owens for the Universal title. There's a great moment during KO's entrance. Kevin Owens walks up to the cage, gets a little intimidated, and then he walks back and then storms into it. It's a simple moment that really goes a long way to fixing the cell's reputation. Firstly though, since when did the knife edge chop make a comeback? WWE's production team hates it when the crowd do the woo chant because they don't want the new stars to be compared to Ric Flair. I know, right? What a horrible thing for an up-and-coming wrestler to be compared to one of the greatest of all time. Another reason that is ridiculous is that it's denying the crowd another way that they enjoy interacting with the show. WWE wants you to chant, but just only the pre-approved chants by WWE management. But anyway, this holds Night of the Match honours with another match I'll talk about later in this video, and I think you might be able to guess which one. But this is what I want to see when two performers the calibre of Rollins and Owens go at it. Kevin targets Seth's back in an unrelenting assault, and Seth puts Owens through two tables. That is really the kind of spot you want to see in a cell match. That kind of escalation of violent creativity. Even the interference from Jericho wasn't as jarring in this time around, as it gelled with the story better. Owens retains, and it had the crowd on their feet, so perhaps it was exhaustion that killed the crowd for the match that followed. Perkins vs Kendrick for the Cruiserweight title. I don't know if they killed the crowd, or if they just couldn't muster enough for the crowd to recover. This was a competent match, but that is the extent of the good things I have to say about it. Kendrick won the title in the match concluding their story arc, but he did so in a match that never once felt like it deserved to have a title change in it. I was a fool to think that after the amazing Cruiserweight Classic, which played host to some of the best wrestling this company has ever seen, that WWE wouldn't find some way to mess it up. They've all been given one storyline to work with, and as decent as that one storyline was, it is A, not enough to convince people that the entire division is worth caring about, and B, they've saddled their champion with a video game gimmick, the extent to which comprises entirely of lame puns and references. TJ Perkins cannot be a role model by being a sucker. His character needs to grow a pair and fast. Having him fall for Kendrick playing possum makes him look like a chump. Now I know they had him attack Kendrick on Raw after Kendrick's further shenanigans, but it was too little too late. They should have had him attack Kendrick after the match on the pay-per-view, and it should have consisted more of, like, just hooking a submission on him outside of the ring. There should have been chairs, fighting in the crowd. Someone should have gone through an announce table. You know, and then you bring down the rest of the division led by Mick Foley to separate them. That would have woken the audience up. The New Day fight Cesaro and Sheamus for the tag titles next. Now, I know I shat all over Heath Slater and Rhino last time for being an improvised tag team, and Cesaro and Sheamus are the same, but at least they look like they fit together. They share a certain physicality, and their odd couple personalities work quite well in tandem. However, I didn't love this. New Day's promo before the match got started was nowhere near as fun as their interview with Todd Phillips on the pre-show. Guys like these always work so much better when they're off the cuff. Scripts are for suckers. Kofi makes a big deal about being from Boston, but he doesn't even get the chance to wrestle in his home city. The match is good, and it might have gotten a higher rating if this was on Raw, but this ain't Raw, this is a pay-per-view. Besides, they've cornered themselves with the booking. Sheamus and Cesaro are stars, so they have to be in the title picture if they're going to be a tag team at all. But the New Day are supposed to beat Demolition's record for the longest reigning tag team title holders, so they have to be tag champs for at least another 41 days, which takes them to the 14th of December. That's why the ending was so balked. Kofi gets them disqualified because reasons, yada yada yada. You know what? I really don't care about this. We have a main event to get to. Sasha Banks versus Charlotte for the Raw Women's Championship. A main event inside Hell in a Cell. Two historical milestones in one. Can the match live up to it? Can the ladies do their moment proud? Yes. It is not without flaws, but they manage it. They have custom entrances. They look a little half-baked when compared to their WrestleMania counterparts, but it's nice to see the occasion given some gravitas. It's the most layered match of the night. It's the only match where the ladies enter the ring and are given a proper welcome. They are announced when they are in the ring itself instead of on the way down the ramp. The title is presented like a proper title should be, and then the cell comes down around them. Charlotte uses this opportunity to attack Sasha, and they take the fight outside. Charlotte and Sasha climb the cage wall, and Charlotte power bombs Sasha through the announce table. And that begins the story of Sasha's back taking an absolute kicking from Charlotte, who, by the way, is the best heel in the company as of this show. This is the most brutal women's match I've ever seen in WWE. Sasha leaped off the side of the cell and hit Charlotte with both of her knees right in the face. Charlotte then smacks Sasha's back onto a chair. Sasha then does that corner spot where she drives her knees through her opponent, but this time Charlotte is laying on top of a steel chair. Charlotte throws Sasha over the ropes and Sasha hits the apron on the way down. This whole match was hellacious. A couple of things go wrong in this match, but I'll tell you why these things don't matter. Charlotte is supposed to take a splash through a table, but it breaks as she lays on it. And this match is supposed to end as Charlotte finally breaks Sasha's back through a table, but the table doesn't move. Twice she attempts this and it doesn't move, so she has to end the match instead with natural selection. And the reason that these spots not going to plan doesn't matter is because it's a fight. Things aren't supposed to go to plan. I'm taking the Jim Cornette route with this one. It was good because things like that increase the illusion that this match was legit. Fights, especially in feuds like this, are supposed to be dirty, messy, unpredictable things. What matters most though is the ending, and yeah, this was where it all started to undo. Sasha, at the height of her popularity in her hometown, loses the belt to Charlotte. Now, theories abound about how people are trying to rationalize this one. If I'm gonna add my name, if I'm gonna throw my hat into this ring, I'm gonna say that Charlotte now has quite a winning streak on pay-per-view matches, at least when you consider singles competition. And I think WWE going forward are keen to keep that streak running until WrestleMania, when they can give the belt to Bayley and she can be the one to beat the streak. And even if that is the case, and I think that's actually a really good storyline to go with, that sucks for Sasha. She's one of the absolute best women's wrestlers on the entire roster, and actually I think one of the best women's wrestlers ever. And I bet you she is thinking that she got signed to the wrong brand at this point. So there we have it. Did WWE bring the Cell back to relevance? Well, kind of. The 3 matches still feel like a dilution of the stipulation. The first 2 were really good, but it never felt like they really belonged in the Cell. Only Sasha Charlotte really felt like it belonged, and even then, not even they went to the roof of the Cell, and after all, isn't that supposed to be Hell in a Cell's USP? That it's a cage match where the cage is roofed off? I thought that was the whole point of the endeavour. And if WWE don't want their wrestlers to go to the top of the Cell anymore, then don't keep shoving mankind falling off of it down our throats. It creates an audience expectation that you are telling your performers that they can no longer satisfy. And that leaves both parties frustrated. And secondly, WWE have it all backwards when it comes to this whole no blood thing. 3 Cell matches have made the absence of blood feeling most inconspicuous. How can you show acts of violence which cause people to bleed usually, without actually seeing them bleed? Blood is a consequence of violence. By shielding it from your younger audience, you are simply telling them that, oh, it's okay Junior, hit your little brother in the throat with a kendo stick. Nothing bad will happen. It's completely counterproductive to the reasons why advertisers wanted blood gone from the program in the first place. Also, it kind of turns WWE into Looney Tunes. But having said that, it didn't damage the reputation of the Cell either. It was a fairly decent show with 3 really good matches, but once again, everything in between the highlights had no place being on a pay-per-view. Total filler that could have been used to make Raw a better program, which is, by the way, a service they are in desperate need of. Well, there you have it folks, that was the Steelchair Shot. Thank you for listening to all of my ramblings, and please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment if you agree or if you disagree. Check out the mag below, and I'll catch you all on social media.